Let me finish this.
It's like, what the?
Cough drop.
You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Welcome back to episode 4, season 4 of the Digging In Podcast. Another special guest here with me today. Jovan, how are we doing this morning?
Man, I'm doing great, man.
I love it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm grateful for your time and just appreciative that you're willing to come in and just let me ask you a few questions. And before we get started, just want to reference our tax reduction report. So if you're looking for some unique strategies on how to save some money in taxes, whether it's today, in the future, legacy, to your kids, your grandchildren, then go to www.yestotaxfree.com and claim your free copy of our tax reduction report. So Jovan, today's topic is passing down more than money. And the idea here is that legacy is about values, it's about lessons, it's about family communication and not just dollars. And the family man that you are, I figured this would be just the perfect topic for you. So my first question, and these are hard-hitting questions, okay? And we like raw and real here on the Digging In.
Okay.
But my first question for you is, growing up, how did your family talk about money, if at all?
Truthfully, growing up, I was never part of the conversations about money.
Okay.
So if there were conversations about money, in our household, the children were not privy to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking back, are there any regrets with that? Do you wish that there would have been some conversations?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because, you're not as prepared as you think you should be, and you think as long as I can buy groceries and put food on the table and have clothes and things are okay with, when it comes down to preparing for the future, maybe even life after work, there was no conversation. So it's kind of like, hey, man, so what's next? What do we do now? So
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. So actually, I'm going back to school, I think for most people that don't know, and I had to write this argumentative essay, and it was horrible, to be honest, because I haven't wrote a paper in a long time. But the idea was, why, personal finance needs to be taught in schools, right? Is because it's, for me, money was a very private subject between my parents. They never had those conversations either. And man, you just end up learning the hard way, right? You make a lot of mistakes. And in my high school, we didn't have a class like that. And I think it's just the fundamentals, man. What is a loan and how interest is charged on it, and just all these different things. So I'm totally in agreement with you, as we talk about legacy, right? Was there ever a moment, when you realized legacy isn't just about money, but it's about values or traditions, or is that something that you realize today?
That's definitely something that I realized today. So personally, I believe that legacy is much more than what you leave for a person, but what you leave in a person.
Okay.
So when I think about that, I think about family traditions, family values. And those are the things that I feel like are most important. Faith is a big one for me as well. So I feel like if I can instill these types of things into my children and they can instill those same values into their children, then that's legacy. Mm-hmm. Now, having the money to fall back on is also a good thing.
But it's secondary, right?
It's secondary.
I think that just kind of helps provide some safety and security,
Yeah.
Amongst other things. Now, how many kids do you have again?
6.
Oh my goodness.
6. So we're a blended family.
Yeah, okay,
We're a blended
yeah.
family. So we have the perfect Brady Bunch pretty much.
Now, what's the age range? How old and how young?
So the oldest is 25.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
He's living in California. He actually made me a grandfather first.
Okay.
And then the youngest is still at home. She's 7.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, so you got so many years left. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, it'll keep me young.
I love that. Now, I know you talk with a ton of clients, a lot of correspondence, but have you, and maybe it's just something that we've talked about as a firm, but have you seen clients struggle Do you know any friends, family members, people a part of your church that have struggled because of family didn't talk openly, whether it was about money, maybe it was about their wishes from a legacy perspective. Any struggles there that you've witnessed?
Absolutely, man. And it's heartbreaking, truthfully, because, I see so many folks, that are a part of the community that will have, like, they would experience loss. And now they're scrambling, like, okay, so how are we going to bury our loved one? Do we have to do a GoFundMe or something to, to bury our loved ones? And man, it breaks my heart to see people have to deal with those struggles. And those struggles come because there's no conversation. They
Right.
don't know where grandma or granddad's, final wishes are. They don't know if grandma or granddad or mom or dad had, wills in place or life insurance and things of that nature. So, yeah, man, those conversations definitely need to be had.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really hard when you're in a point of grieving to try and overcome that grief, with this struggle here, that struggle there. I think that's just it's a tough position to be in. And I think what you said is really important is they're tough conversations to have, but they need to be
They
had.
need to be had.
And my parents, just kind of speaks about my parents, right? I mean, they've been for forever. It seems like, oh, we need to put a will together. We need to put a will together. If mom, if you're listening to this, it's time. It's time.
I echo that for my grandparents, and also just being totally transparent. My grandmother just had a few health issues, and some of those conversations that we've been putting golf, we realize now, man, like, we need to have them. They're tough. You don't necessarily want to deal with those things, but they have to be done.
I agree. Amen. On the flip side, more positive notes, do you have an example of maybe when a family, friend has handled the situation well, or where it's just been really smooth?
So to that, I just want to chat about a conversation that I had with a client.
Okay.
Who was ecstatic because they were able to pay for their kids' college tuition,
Okay.
for their grandkids' college tuition, to help them get through college, and it made them feel amazing, and they were preparing for, since their grandkids were young, and those conversations that kind of led to where they are now. It was a beautiful thing for them. So
That's cool, man. I think, that's kind of goes back to Joe and I's, in episode 1 of the season. Is like everyone just wants to, like, the biggest regret is I didn't start earlier.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has that regardless of kind of where you're at. No, everything's circumstantial, right? Sometimes you can't start early, but I think it's just thinking about those goals, just thinking about them, putting the words out there is really important, rather than just kind of, sometimes I think we all compartmentalize, those things because we don't think we can achieve them for whatever reason, but all good things take time. I mean, regardless of the situation. So, that's interesting. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but curious if there's something specific or if you want to elaborate further. The question is, what's one non-financial thing that you hope to pass down to your kids, your loved ones?
Well, faith will probably be number one. I'd like to believe that I have a solid foundation with my faith and my trust in God, and I would love to pass that on. But next to that, I would say just respect, to be respectful and respectable.
Okay.
And that's one thing that I've always tried to instill, specifically in my sons.
Okay.
Whatever they say, if it's bad, don't let it be the truth. Carry yourself with respect,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please,
Okay.
thank you. All of those things that should be fundamental.
Right.
But in 2025, sometimes those things, you don't see them very frequently anymore.
Yeah, amen. I mean, faith and respect then. Faith and respect. I like that. How can families start conversations, whether it's about money, legacy, how can we start those conversations without it feeling, awkward or uncomfortable?
I think it just needs to be maybe part of dinner time conversation. Maybe a monthly goals conversation. Okay, this is where we are. What can we do this month to help our family, to catapult our family to this direction?
Okay.
So even if this chat's about life insurance, if this chat's about, okay, how can we help my brother achieve his dream of getting his license and whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And us all come together as a family and help each other, reach those goals.
Yeah. I think what it kind of circles back to is what you said earlier, have the conversation. Like, whatever it takes to get there, just have it,
Yeah.
right? One way or the other, have the conversation, whether it's uncomfortable, it's awkward. I think that translates into everyone's personal life, right? Like, be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And like we always have that saying here at Rooted, eat the frog.
Eat the frog,
You know?
yeah.
I don't know who came up with it, whether it was Hilda or was Zach, but there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think it sounds funny, but there's a lot of truth to that. And the earlier you can eat the frog, man, like just the better off you're
Yeah.
gonna be. And I
Yeah.
think, because I remember when Zach and Hilda, eat the frog, I'm like, especially like when I was younger, first starting out, I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll
Right,
get to
right.
it. But now I've seen, like, if the earlier you do it, the better your day's gonna be, the better your week's gonna be, the better the month's gonna be.
Absolutely.
It's really translated.
Yeah.
So, Jovan, man, I just want to say thank you. I love your perspective on life, on just kind of everything. So I appreciate you being here. One last point is, once again, free copy, tax reduction report, www.yes-to-taxfree.com. Maybe you even have a chance to chat with Jovan, myself, if you go to that website, www.yes-to-taxfree.com. Looking forward to digging in soon. Thanks again, Jovan.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for having me.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
You made it easy, man.